What do we do now?
Dive in, I suppose.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the instances where Netflix's semi-historical royal narrative adhered to factual accuracy, and moments when they embraced artistic freedom. As always, if you're not caught up, beware of spoilers ahead.
I just felt like doing something drastic. To know, one way or another.
Number 10. The Home Secretary customarily witnessed future monarchs' births. Right. Typically, when we talk about old-timey births, dads usually weren't even in the room when moms were in labor. Fun fact, apparently Prince Philip was playing squash when he first became a father. But hey, the royals aren't your average family.
In earlier times, many people had to bear witness for fear of a royal fake.
It was the real child, a representative group of the Privy Council, latterly only the Home Secretary, had to be there to watch.
In the episode Ruritania, the Queen tells the Prime Minister about an astounding old royal custom that involved a rather unexpected birthing partner, or partners.
Believe it or not, for my first child, it was still custom to summon the Home Secretary to witness a royal birth.
Reportedly, this centuries-old tradition was established to avoid any arguments or doubts about the legitimacy of the future monarch. As the Queen also informs us, her father put an end to this, quote, archaic custom when she was expecting her first child, Prince, now King, Charles.
My father put a stop to it with my consent, so I'm not against reform. The question is what is worth preserving and where to draw the line.
Number 9. Prince William and Harry's relationship has long been fraught. Wrong. Prince Harry hasn't shied away from talking about the rift with his brother.
He was shouting at me, I was shouting back at him. It wasn't nice, it wasn't pleasant at all. And he snapped, and he pushed me to the floor.
While some believe it began when Meghan Markle entered the picture, the prince has suggested it started several years earlier. He even recalled their Eton days when his big bro apparently told him, quote, pretend we don't know each other. Relatable to many younger siblings, we're sure. Anyway, the Crown seems to have drawn on several of these revelations and reworked them to fit the final season's time frame.
I'd enjoy the freedom sometimes of not having to be the sensible one, the reliable one, and welcome the opportunity to be the likeable rogue.
No chance of that.
Why is that?
To be a likeable rogue, you first need to be likeable.
However, they do somewhat address Harry's claims about that ill-thought costume. We also can't be sure about Prince William's tense relationship with his father, but apparently they were no strangers to fiery exchanges.
She should have been safe with us, and the fact that she wasn't is your fault! And no, you didn't actually drive the car, but you drove her into the arms of those that did.
Number 8. Willsmania. Right. Every generation has their teen heartthrob, and for many in the late 90s, that heartthrob was none other than a teenage Prince William. The Crown vividly reenacts the frenzy that surrounded him wherever he went. Imagine seeing your celeb crush. Now multiply that excitement by 1,000,000 and you'll get a sense of what Willsmania was like.
One and only Prince Charming. I love him, and he said hi, and then he shook my hand. I shook his hand!
In the episode, the princes vacation in Canada and are practically swarmed by young ladies, eagerly waiting to catch even the briefest glimpse of the young royal. Believe it or not, this is pretty spot on.
The city of Vancouver is in the grip of William Mania. And if the inhabitants here are anything to go by, this won't be the last city to go wild over the world's latest teenage heartthrob.
Understandably, the prince was taken aback by the sudden burst of limelight.
He assured me they'd be shutting the place down to keep the girls out. Marry me, William, I love you.
However, reports suggest he remained warm and gracious, generally sharing his time with the adoring crowd. Number 7. Operation Paget. Mostly right. The penultimate episode dives into some of the conspiracy theories surrounding Diana's tragic accident, specifically those fueled by Mohammed Al-Fayed, which resulted in a criminal investigation. He alleged that his son and Diana were engaged and expecting, and accused the royal family of plotting the fatal incident.
1 hour before, and it's there enjoying, having great fun, dinner, and say, Daddy, on Monday we're declaring our engagement. I'm going home now, having a bottle of champagne. I'm going to give her the ring. I bought the ring.
Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, stoked these claims by sharing a letter she supposedly wrote years earlier, expressing fears of a planned car accident.
Are you aware of a letter written by the princess and discovered by her butler, Paul Burrell, in which she wrote of her suspicions that you were plotting a deliberate brake failure in her vehicle?
We also see how the princes were involved in proceedings. But unlike the Crown suggests, public sentiment remained largely skeptical. Also, nothing was publicly disclosed until 2006, and the investigation concluded in 2008. Mr. Al-Fayed's claims were essentially found to be baseless.
This was a series of unfortunate incidents leading to a tragic accident in a tunnel, and it is the recommendation of this inquiry that the princess should finally be allowed to rest in peace.
Number 6. The Queen was irked by Tony Blair's widespread approval. Right, kind of. Rumor has it that the Queen once confessed that Tony Blair was her least favorite prime minister.
Didn't change and wasn't going to change on her watch. And that came from the toughness to be able to say, I'm going to compromise on this, but I'm not compromising on that.
He represented a modern age that clashed with the royal stronghold on tradition. Apparently, she didn't love his informality or reluctance to bow, pun intended, to custom. Did this spark nightmares of a King Tony coronation?
But after almost 50 years on the throne, it's out with Queen Elizabeth and in with King Tony.
Who knows, but she acknowledged his strengths, seemingly leveraging them for the monarchy's well-being. After Diana's death, Blair's popularity soared.
What would you do to turn things round for us if you were in charge?
If I were in charge of the monarchy?
If you were in my shoes?
Meanwhile, we see the Queen initiate focus groups to gauge public opinion on the royals. Groups were indeed held, but her involvement is unclear. Blair's era starts to crumble as he misreads the room at a Women's Institute event. Yes, the crowd's reaction's pretty spot on.
Blair was treated to slow hand claps from the assembled WI ladies, who weren't falling for the Prime Minister's charm.
Number 5. Carol Middleton played matchmaker for her daughter and Prince William. We don't know. In episode 7, we see a meet-cute between teenage William and Kate Middleton over a copy of the Big Issue magazine.
What's your name?
Catherine.
Kate's fine. So thank you, Kate.
Did it really happen? Well, the now Princess of Wales has mentioned she never met her mother-in-law, so probably not. Later, Kate compares her mom to Mrs. Bennet from Pride and Prejudice for incessantly nudging her toward the future king. Though both took similar paths to St. Andrews, and yes, Kate initially planned to attend university in Edinburgh, there's no solid evidence of any intentional moves to meet the prince.
Was it a coincidence you encouraged me to sign up to the art course in Florence, where William was expected to go? And then to the expedition in Chile as well, where he went?
Rather, the media spun Mrs. Middleton as the determined mom, scheming to unite her daughter with the prince based on her own history of social climbing. Plus, would Prince William actually snub the Golden Jubilee for the Middletons?
I know she gave me a pass to miss it all, but I can't help feeling that I should be with her.
Doubtful. Number 4. Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret snuck out to join VE Day celebrations. Right. Believe it or not, this really happened, and it sounds wild.
Well, for some reason we decided to go in the front door of the Ritz and do the conga. It goes da 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 bum da 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 da.
Yet the episode carries bittersweet tones as we revisit the event in flashbacks during Princess Margaret's final days. After a series of strokes, the first of which happened at her Moustique vacation home, sadly also true, the princess opts to celebrate her 70th birthday at a venue that holds a cherished memory.
When a very different side of the young Princess Elizabeth was revealed.
The then teenaged princesses and their entourage of about 16 people snuck out of the palace to celebrate the end of the Second World War with the British public at the Ritz, an event loosely depicted in the 2015 film A Royal Night Out. Even decades later, the Queen recalls it as, quote, one of the most memorable nights of my life.
Come on, Porty. Let's get her out of here.
No, don't! Leave her. Look how happy she is.
Number 3. The royal family initially opposed Prince Charles and Camilla's marriage. Right and wrong. The prince's relationship with Camilla faces yet another hurdle in securing his family's approval when he decides to pop the question. There's a sense that the writers tapped into Prince Harry's recent revelations while imagining how the princes might have felt about the proposal.
We didn't think it was necessary. We thought that it was going to cause more harm than good, and that if he was now with his person, that surely that's enough.
The Queen also grapples with conflicting feelings about the impending union. In reality, she wasn't always Camilla's biggest fan, reportedly once labeling her, quote, that wicked woman. Perhaps she hadn't forgotten Camilla's role in the breakdown of her son's marriage.
Many people in this country still believe that the relationship between the Prince of Wales and Mrs. Parker Bowles was responsible for the breakdown of a royal marriage.
However, her absence from the actual wedding wasn't fueled by personal sentiments, but rather by the Church of England's firm stance against divorce, a position she had to uphold as its head. Number 2, Prince William falls for the art of seduction, right and wrong. In the series' penultimate episode, Prince William and Kate's love story takes a riveting turn at a charity catwalk. It's true, the now princess really did strut her stuff in a dress that's almost a spot-on replica of the one we see on the crown.
Supposedly it was a skirt and she kind of pulled it up last minute to make a bit more of a statement. That just says a lot about Kate in terms of going after what she wants.
Observers noted that she had turned the prince's head that night and sparked his hopes of something more. However, some sources suggest both were still in other relationships at the time.
And I'd started to worry that we drifted into the dreaded friend zone.
Oh no, I'd hate that.
So would I.
I've always been interested.
The pair had become close friends and even lived in a shared house on Hope Street. However, romance was still several months away. As for the dress, it apparently snatched up $125,000 at an auction in 2011. Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions. News of the Queen Mother's passing put a pause on Prince William and Kate Middleton's first kiss. Wrong. Reports suggest that he was on a skiing vacation with his father and brother when they received the news.
I'm afraid this can't wait, sir. Operation Paget. I'm really sorry.
The Queen planned her own funeral. Right. Plans have been in place for decades and have evolved with time. But yes, the Queen was consulted on the details.
Oh yes, a little heavy at the moment, ma'am, but it will shrink down nicely as you begin to express your preferences.
My preference would be a quiet service in Scotland, out of sight and over in 20 minutes.
Prince Harry's questionable costume choice and stay in a rehabilitation center. Right. If you remember the early 2000s, you probably don't need us to remind you these events are true.
Went ballistic. Said I could have got myself expelled. Now he wants me to go to a treatment center to spend the day with some addicts.
What?
Queen Elizabeth's friend Porchy died of a heart attack on 9/11. Right and wrong. The date is correct, but there's no concrete proof of any correlation between the two events.
And such terrible news about Lord Carnarvon, too.
Porchy? Why? What's happened?
He collapsed while he was watching the news.
Prince William considered quitting university. Right. Apparently he struggled to settle in and found the area boring.
William is miserable. And wants to leave university.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Queen planned to announce her abdication at Prince Charles and Camilla's wedding. Wrong. We imagine wearing the crown can feel quite weighty, literally and figuratively, but there's no evidence to suggest the Queen was ever ready to give that up.
Your first loyalty's always been to the crown. Sometimes at the expense of being a mother. Stepping down is the right thing to do.
Still, in the season finale, we see the monarch grapple over whether it's time to pass it along to her son and let him have his turn on the throne. In fact, she considers announcing her abdication at Charles and Camilla's wedding. As we said, there's nothing to support this story, but it did offer a poignant reflection on her reign, assisted by the former versions of herself.
But you seem to thrive in it. And more importantly, it seems to thrive under you. So shouldn't you stay for every single day that you can?
At most, it was a nice way to honor Queen Elizabeth II's legacy and bid farewell to the audience.
Nice speech, Granny.
Thank you.
Though surprisingly short. You sure you didn't forget half of it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Which plot point were you most shocked to find out is true? Is there anything you're surprised they left out? Let us know in the comments.
The system makes no sense anymore to those outside it, nor to those of us inside it.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.